It is a terrible thing for an entire people to surrender to the notion that 1/9 of its population is beneath them. And until the moment comes when we, the American people, are able to accept the fact that I have to accept, for example, that my ancestors are both white and black, that on that continent we are trying to forge a new identity for which we need each other, and that I am not a ward of America. I am not an object of missionary charity. I am one of the people who built the country. Until that moment, there is scarcely any hope for the American dream, because the people who are denied participation in it, by their very presence, will wreck it. And if that happens, it's a very grave moment for the West. Welcome, everybody. Today we're going to take you on a journey back in time to a pivotal moment in American history, a time of great divide and racial tension.
We're going to introduce you to two men who stood on opposite sides of this divide.
James Baldwin and William F. Buckley Jr. Our play looks at the importance of dialogue to give people a voice to address the issue of othering in wider society.
The story begins with two sixth formers and friends since primary school, Carter.
That's me.
And Max.
That's me.
Arriving in their school hall. It's the end of the day, and Carter is explaining to Max why they are using the Cambridge Union as the setting for their exam before they leave school.
We're using a debate from the Cambridge Union as the focus for our last Global Citizen Scholar exam. Our group, me, Khalil and Sophie, are combining history, English, drama and technology for our project. Mr. Graham thinks that going back in time to when racism and violence were more explicit would be a great framework for our final group project.
Still relevant though, isn't it?
That's exactly why we're focusing on this. Baldwin talks about 10% of the population of America being denied a voice back then.
Yeah, but if you look at the world today, I think it's closer to 50%, maybe even more. Think about it. If you are a woman, a person of colour, queer, neurodivergent, or outspoken against prejudice in any way, some people see you as dangerous, something to be feared.
Exactly. That's why we wanted to do this. Plus, Mr. Graham is great at not letting our passion get in the way of our purpose.
Oh, he loves the GCSEs more than we do.
I know. Can you believe it's been 10 years since the government introduced the Global Citizen curriculum? Mad to think there was a time when years of school came down to a 2-hour exam.
Yeah, and with my neurospicy brain, the thought of sitting still for 2 hours sounds like hell. Let alone write a paper in that time. Oh, I'm so happy this is split into 3.
Yeah, if we were born just a year earlier, I would have had no chance at high grade. I mean, we need at least 70% in all 3 areas to pass. It's not easy, but it's doable.
Yeah, but if we pass this one, I'll get a scholarship to go to uni. And you can do your social enterprise work. Or is it apprenticeship? You keep changing your mind, Carter.
I know, but whatever I choose, I can do anywhere in the world. For free. For 4 years.
Mad.
Well, we are the big social experiment, aren't we? Could have gone really wrong.
The government's guinea pigs. How are you getting on?
Our presentation has changed a lot, but we think we're there. Thanks for coming to our run-through.
No problem. But seeing as my group has booked this space in an hour, can we get started?
I'm not sure where Sophie and Khalil are. They should be here by now. They usually arrive first.
Have they messaged you?
Oh, I missed this. Sophie sent it half an hour ago.
What's it say?
Something serious has happened and we will be late. We might not even make it.
Are they all right? Sorry, Carter, I can't hang about.
No, don't go, Max. Hang on. Will you test me? Sophie and Khalil have nailed their lines, but I'm still not quite sure of mine.
Sure. Who am I?
You are James Baldwin, African-American playwright, novelist, and civil rights activist. Friend of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. Khalil is playing him. I'm playing William F. Buckley Jr., a white American conservative who had a very different view on race relations in America.
Oh, you don't want me to do an American accent, do you?
No, we're not doing accents. We don't want to do an impersonation, but figured we'd focus on the words themselves. The words they said then and the words we're saying now. It's about dialogue this time, not debate.
OK, cool.
We put together a 20-minute performance of what it would be like if the formal 1965 debate were an informal dialogue on a modern-day podcast called Past That, It's Present Drama, if Sophie and Khalil ever turn up.
I'm here.
So, where have you been? Is everything okay?
No, Khalil's not coming.
Why?
Carter, you were supposed to set everything up.
Are you okay? Why is Khalil not coming?
Just forget it. We've only got this space for an hour and I don't want to waste any more of my time. I'll read in for Khalil. Carter, just get into your position.
Max can stand in for Khalil. They were going to go through the lines with me anyway.
Have you learned your lines?
I know my lines. Suppose we should also sort the chairs and table out as well to calm Sophie down. We don't want her to have a hissy fit.
Will you two please get ready? Welcome to the Past Lives, Present Drama podcast, where we spill the tea on past dramas. We take you back in time to the world's greatest arguments, conflicts, and debates. This week, we have James Baldwin, a renowned civil rights activist. We also have William F. Buckley Jr., a conservative writer and public intellectual. For our new listeners, let me give you a little bit of a lowdown on our venue for today, the Cambridge Union. The Cambridge Union began after a drunken brawl between rival debating societies. After they hashed it out, they figured it made more sense to band together to form the Cambridge Union Society. The rules of the Cambridge debate are quite old-fashioned and really formal, so try and stay with me. First, there's a motion, an idea, statement, or policy. It begins this house, followed by the motion. Then you have the opening government that present the topic to be debated. Then you have the opening opposition, the initial argument against the motion. With me so far? After that is the closing government and the closing opposition who deliver the main argument on the motion. And if that still doesn't make sense, please check out our show notes for more information and just try to keep up for the next 20 minutes. The Union has seen many different people, like Winston Churchill, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, Emma Thompson, Robert De Niro, and even Stephen Hawking. Slay! Before we get stuck into the clash at Cambridge, I want to bring you our new segment, which we like to call, What in the Hell Was Happening Then? Well, racism and violence were rife. In August 1955, 14-year-old Emmett Till was killed in Mississippi for allegedly flirting with a white woman. His murderers were acquitted. The case gained national attention when photos of Till's beaten body were published. This created a national divide, with some feeling disgust and ashamed, while others celebrated. In December 1955, Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat to a white man in Montgomery, Alabama. This led to a bus boycott that declared that bus segregation laws were unconstitutional. To this day, this single act of defiance by this quiet 42-year-old seamstress are still celebrated. Then, in September 1957, the governor of Arkansas called in the National Guard to bar 9 black students from attending an all-white high school in Little Rock. The federal troops were eventually threatened and the National Guard were withdrawn. If you're tuning in on YouTube, you'll be able to see the calm, quiet, dignified face of a young black girl being screamed at by a group of white people. February 1960, 4 black college students in North Carolina staged a sit-in at a segregated Woolworths lunch counter protesting their denial of service. This led to tens of thousands of students performing similar sit-ins all across the country. 2 years later, in October 1962, the National Guard were called in to put down riots, allowing James Meredith into the University of Mississippi as their first black student. Come on, James. Then, in August 1963, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. gave his I Have a Dream speech during the Civil Rights March in Washington, D.C. on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. There were more than 200,000 people there. That's the same amount as Glasgow punters every year. Imagine all of them squeezing round the pyramid stage. Now picture that happening in Washington, D.C. It started to feel like things were finally looking up. And then they weren't. In November 1963, President John F. Kennedy, an advocate for civil rights, was assassinated. Less than a year later, a civil rights bill was passed by the United States Congress outlawing discrimination in jobs, voting, and accommodations. However, on the 21st of February 1965, 3 days after the debate were about to begin, Malcolm X, a great friend of James Baldwin, was assassinated. Now you're all caught up on what in the hell was happening then. Let's begin. So today we are joined by James Baldwin and William F. Buckley Jr. to debate the motion. Has the American dream been at the cost of the African American? James Baldwin, black, author, playwright, with a focus on themes of race, love, civil rights, and the need for moral integrity. William Buckley, white, author, academic, who created the National Review magazine. Welcome to you both.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you for your kind invitation.
We are here today to discuss the motion. Has the American dream been at the expense of the African American? This topic is an important one. As you know, in our last episode, we spoke to current Cambridge students, David Haycock, who supported the motion, and Jeremy Burford, who was against the motion. The response we received in social media and the national press was greatly divided and very intense. We've never had such a response to a debate, and this week, in part 2, we are expecting no less of a response. Mr. Baldwin, you are here in favour of the motion. What are your thoughts?
Good evening. I find myself, not for the first time, in the position of a kind of Jeremiah. I don't disagree with Mr. Burford that the inequalities suffered by the African American population of the United States have hindered the American dream. Indeed, it has. I quarrel with some other things he has to say. The other deeper element of a certain awfulness I feel has to do with one's point of view. I have to put it that way. One's sense, one's system of reality. It would seem to me the proposition before the House is the American dream at the expense of the African American, or the American dream is at the expense of the African American. Is the question hideously loaded? One's reaction to that question has to depend on where you find yourself in the world, what your system of reality is. It depends on assumptions which we hold so deeply so as to be scarcely aware of them. A white South African or Mississippi sharecropper or a Mississippi sheriff or a Frenchman driven out of Algeria all have a system of reality which compels them to act. For example, the Mississippi or Alabama sheriff, who really does believe when he's facing an African American boy or girl that this woman, this man, this child must be insane to attack the system to which he owes his entire identity. Of course, to such a person, the proposition which we are here to discuss tonight does not exist.
Did you hear that, Carter? If someone doesn't see that what they are doing is in any way offensive, then when someone takes offence to what they're doing, it can be confusing for them.
Well, I am confused, Sophie. I don't know what you're talking about. Say what you've got to say, Sophie.
Really?
Yes.
In front of your friend?
Yes.
In front of your they, them, gender diverse, socially and politically outspoken friend?
What's that got to do with anything? Why are you bringing me into this?
Hey, Max. Do you know why we called our group the Peace Ambassadors? Because we all share a passion for peace. We all wanted to be ambassadors for peace. Right, Carter?
Right.
For the last 10 years, every single one of our projects was about positive change. We didn't want to be contributors to the violence. Isn't that right, Carter?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Do you like my hair, Carter?
What?
My hair. Do you like it? It's not too messy.
What's going on?
What?
Hashtag Black Lives Matter but too many braids.
Soph,
Hashtag white lives have better hair.
This is a mistake. I didn't mean to like this post.
What happened?
Hashtag messy hair, hashtag Zulu. That's not going to hurt me. That's not going to hurt me at all.
I swear to you, it was a mistake. I would not do that to you.
You did do that to me, Carter.
I'm sorry.
Saying sorry and being sorry are two very different things. I can't do this, I'm sorry.
Sophie, wait. Why don't we just run it through and then see how you feel? Right now, you have a choice. You can either walk out or work it out. Isn't that what your piece is about? Break the cycle of violence, use the conflict, not ignore it. Dialogue, not debate. At the bare minimum, this would be a great journal entry.
Let's just get on with it.
Great. Thanks, Soph.
I'm not doing this for you, Carter. Mr. Buckley, would you like to respond to Mr. Baldwin's point?
It seems to me that of all the indictments Mr. Baldwin has made of America here tonight, and in his copious literature of protest, the one that is the most striking involves the refusal of the American community to treat him other than as a black man. The American community, almost everywhere he goes, treats him with a kind of unction, a kind of satisfaction at posturing carefully before his flagellations of our civilization, that indeed quite properly commands the contempt which he so eloquently showers upon it. It is impossible, in my judgment, to deal with the indictment of Mr. Baldwin unless one is prepared to deal with him as a white man, unless one is prepared to say to him, Mr. Baldwin, the fact that your skin is black is utterly irrelevant to the arguments that you raise. The fact that you sit here, as is your rhetorical device, and lay the entire weight of the African American community on your own shoulders is irrelevant to the argument that we are here to discuss.
Mr. Baldwin.
I have to speak as one of the people who have been most attacked by what we now must call here in the Western or European system of reality, what white people in the world, what we call white supremacy. I hate to say it here, comes from Europe. It's how it got to America. Whatever one's reaction to this proposition is, has to be the question of whether or not civilizations can be considered equal, or whether one civilization has the right to overtake and subjugate and to destroy one another. Now, what happens when that happens? Leaving aside all the physical facts that one can quote, leaving aside rape or murder, leaving aside the bloody catalogue of oppression which we are in one way too familiar with already, what this does to the subjugated, the most private, the most serious thing this does to the subjugated is to destroy his sense of reality. This means, in the case of the African American, born in that glittering republic, and the moment you are born, since you don't know any better, every stick and stone and every face is white. And since you have not yet seen a mirror, you suppose that you are too. It comes as a great shock around the age of 5 or 6 or 7 to discover that the flag to which you have pledged allegiance has not pledged allegiance to you. It comes as a great shock to discover that Gary Cooper killing off the Indians, when you were rooting for Gary Cooper, that the Indians were you. It comes as a great shock to discover that the country, your birthplace, to which you owe your life and your identity, has not, in its entire system of reality, evolved any place for you.
The gravamen of Mr. Baldwin's charges against America is not so much that our civilization has failed him and his people, that our ideals are insufficient, but that we have no ideals.
Sorry to interrupt again, but what is a gravamen?
Oh, it's a legal term. It means the basic gist of a legal claim. In Latin, it means to weigh down. A bit like spending time with Carter.
Mr. Baldwin's charges against America are that our ideals rather are a sort of superficial coating we come up with at any given moment in order to justify whatever commercial or noxious experiment we are engaged in. Thus, Mr. Baldwin can write in his book The Fire Next Time, in which he threatens America.
When does Mr. Baldwin threaten America?
In The Fire Next Time, he threatens America with the necessity for us to jettison our entire civilization when he stated unequivocally that the only thing that the white man has that the black man should want, he said, is power. As I wrote a few years back in 1959 in my book Up From Liberalism, that blacks are not ready to rule themselves. Democracy, to be successful, must be practiced by politically mature people, among whom there is a consensus on the meaning of life within their society. Mr. Baldwin is treated from coast to coast of the United States with a kind of unctuous servitude which goes beyond anything that was ever expected from the most servile black creature by a Southern family.
So, what are you proposing?
I'm proposing to pay him the honour of saying to him, Mr. Baldwin, I'm going to speak to you without any reference whatever to those surrounding protections you are used to in virtue of the fact that you are black, and in virtue of the fact that your race has dreadfully suffered at the hands of my race. I'm going to speak to you as a fellow American, as a person whose indictments of our civilization are unjustified, as a person who, if his counsels are listened to, would be cursed by all of his grandchildren's grandchildren in virtue of what he actually seeks to bring down upon America in pursuit of his neurotic mission.
Mr. Baldwin.
The disaffection, the demoralisation, and the gap between one person and another only on the basis of the colour of their skin begins there and accelerates. Accelerates throughout a whole lifetime to the present when you realise you're 30 and are having a terrible time managing to trust your countrymen. By the time you are 30, you have been through a certain kind of mill. And the most serious effect of this mill, you have been through, again, not the catalogue of disaster, the policemen, the taxi drivers, the waiters, the landlady, the landlord, the banks, the insurance companies, the millions of details 24 hours a day, which spell out to you that you are a worthless human being. It is not that. It's by the time you've begun to see it happening in your daughter or son or your niece or nephew are 30 by now, and nothing you have done helped them to escape the trap. But what is worse than that is that nothing you have done, nothing you can do, will save them from meeting the same disaster. Let me put it this way, that from a literal point of view, the harbours and the ports and the railroads of this country, the economy, especially of the southern states, could not conceivably be what it has become if they had not had, or still do not have, cheap labour. I am stating very seriously, and this is not an overstatement, I picked the cotton. I carried it to the market. And I built the railroads under someone else's whip for nothing. For nothing. 40 years ago, when I was born, the idea of a black man and a white man discussing race on equal terms was unimaginable. I grew up believing the false narrative that Africa had no history and that I was a slave saved by Europe.
Mr. Baldwin, in his book The Fire Next Time, states quite clearly that the only thing that the white man has that the black man should want is power. It is how the black community strives to gain this power that is of concern to the white community.
When I was growing up, I was taught in American history books that Africa had no history and neither did I. That I was a slave about whom the less said, the better. Who had been saved by Europe and brought to America. And of course, I believed it. I didn't have much choice. Those were the only books there were. Everyone else seems to agree that if you walk out of Harlem, ride out of Harlem downtown, the world agrees that what you see is bigger, cleaner, whiter, richer, safer than where you are. They collect the garbage. People can obviously pay their life insurance. The children look happy, safe. You're not. And you go back home and it would seem that, of course, it is an act of God that this is true, that you belong, where white people have put you. It is only since the Second World War that there has been a counter-image in the world. That image could not come about through any legislation on the part of any American government, but through the fact that Africa was suddenly on the stage of the world and Africans had to be dealt with in a way that they had never been dealt with before. This gave an African American, for the first time, a sense of himself beyond a savage or a clown.
A savage or a clown? Mr. Buckley?
The primary question before the House, as posed by the larger attitude taken by Mr. Baldwin, is whether or not our civilization has shown itself so flawed as the result of the failure of its response to the African-American problem of the United States that it ought to be jettisoned. Now, I suggest that anybody who argued, as it may have been argued in this very House 125 years ago, the very fact that Jews and Catholics were not given the vote, were not allowed to vote in England as late as 1828, suggested English civilization ought to have been jettisoned. I suggest the other possibility ought to be considered, that precisely the reason they did get the vote is because English civilization was not jettisoned. That the whole point of our philosophical concern ought never to be to make that terrible fault that is made so frequently that we should so immanentize our own misgivings as to rush forward to jettison and to overthrow our civilization because we do not live up to its higher ideals. But meanwhile, I am saying to you that the engines of concern in the United States are working. The presence of Mr. Baldwin here tonight is in part a reflection of that concern.
Are they? Are the engines of equality and opportunity, acceptance and understanding really running smoothly? Mr. Baldwin?
One of the great things that the white world does not know, but I think I do know, is that black people are just like everybody else. One has used the myth of the African American and the myth of colour to pretend and to assume that you are dealing essentially with something exotic, bizarre, and practically, according to human laws, unknown. Alas, that is not true. We are also mercenaries, dictators, murderers, liars. We are human too. What is crucial here is that unless we manage to establish some kind of dialogue between these people, whom I pretend have paid for the American dream, and those other people who have not achieved it, we will be in terrible trouble.
Let me just say this. There is no instant cure to the race problem in America, and anybody who tells you that there is a charlatan and ultimately a boring man. Boring precisely because he's then speaking in the kind of abstractions that do not relate to the human experience. The trouble in America where the African American community is concerned is a very complicated one.
I agree with you, Mr. Buckley. It is complicated. Indeed, it is so complex and chaotic, it needs a simple, shared understanding of what connects us and what dream we share. Is the dream one of kindness and equality imagined by the Reverend Martin Luther King, or the American dream, where the success of the few is at the cost of the many? The distraction from this reality that is fed to the compliant and fearful majority is the vilification and demonization of a minority group. We can see this pattern in all conflicts throughout time. It is a terrible thing for an entire people to surrender to the notion that 1/9 of its population is beneath them. And until that moment, until the moment comes when we, the Americans, we, the American people, are able to accept the fact that I have to accept, for example, that my ancestors are both white and black, that on that continent we are trying to forge a new identity for which we need each other, and that I am not a ward of America. I am not an object of missionary charity. I am one of the people who built the country. Until this moment, there is scarcely any hope for the American dream, because the people who are denied participation in it by their very presence will wreck it. And if that happens, it is a very grave moment for the West.
Thank you both for joining me. And I hope that our listeners today, and in the future, will find this dialogue helpful. I know that I have. There is no doubt that unless we, and future generations, have the wisdom and courage to actively engage and listen as individuals and communities, we will never break the cycle of violence. And Mr. Baldwin's prediction will become our reality. Finally, if you'd like some more drama in your life, join us next week when we travel back to Palestine in 1948 to the beginning of the Arab-Israeli conflict. We'll be joined by the then British Prime Minister, Clement Attlee, and Ahmed Hilmi Abdi al-Baki, the first Prime Minister of the All-Palestine government. This promises to be one of the most dramatic exchanges in the history of the Past Lives, Present Drama podcast. Join us then.
Sophie Carter, that was brilliant.
Excuse me.
That was unexpected.
Can I say one thing? You know why Carter's staying with Khalil, right?
No.
It's really bad at Carter's place. He shares a room with his 2 younger brothers and there's nowhere for him to work. His mum's new boyfriend is a bully, always on Carter's case. And since the boyfriend has moved in, he has his mates over, smoking and drinking most nights. Carter wasn't sleeping. Khalil and his parents gave him a place to crash. Somewhere safe, where he could focus on the lead up to exams, get away from the madness. These exams are so important to Carter. So I don't think he would do anything to intentionally screw things up.
I didn't know that.
Soph, he feels so isolated right now, and he needs to know he belongs somewhere.
Why are boys like this? Why would he want to belong to a bunch of misogynistic, racist mates anyway?
I don't know. But sometimes when you feel lost and alone, it's easier to be part of a group than be by yourself. Baldwin talked about people who do things because they think they're facing a greater danger than they are. That is not an acceptance of what they do, but an understanding of why they might do it. Now, I'm not saying what Carter did wasn't wrong or that he won't do it again. I don't know. But I think you could give him the benefit of the doubt.
Maybe.
Maybe, maybe not. But you could take a moment to see where he's coming from. Isn't that where peace starts? Not just shaking somebody's hand, but understanding somebody else and what they're going through. Start there. Forgiveness, if it comes later.
I called Khalil. He wants to talk to me. So does his mum and dad. He said they want us all to talk tonight over dinner. They want to hear my side of the story before they decide if I can continue to use the spare room. I feel sick. I'm not sure I can face them. Soph, again, I'm really sorry.
I know. I'm just tired. I'm tired of kids being attacked in school for no reason. I'm tired of kids ending their own lives and thinking that it's a good option. I'm tired of the constant violence in this world and I just want it to stop. I want there to be some type of peace. And not just for people that look like me and Mr. Baldwin, but for anybody who feels like they're being attacked and oppressed simply because of the body, place, or family they were born into. I am sad and angry that people say one thing and do another. That's why I wanted to do this project. That's why I wanted to do it right. But if after all this time and working with you for so long and you can't see it, what's the point? I know that what you said was a mistake, but it still makes me angry. That's you and so many like you have to have it pointed out in front of you. That makes me sad. Talk to me tomorrow after you've spoken to Khalil and his parents, and we can decide what to do next then.
What are you going to say to Khalil and his parents?
Don't know. I really don't know.
You're not a bad person, Carter.
Yeah, I'm definitely not brave or wise either. I have to go.
There's no such thing as a good person or a bad person. People make choices based on their reality. And the only way we can get to any kind of solution is to find common ground. Dialogue, not debate. Good luck, mate.
It is a terrible thing for an entire people to surrender to the notion that 1/9 of its population is beneath them. And until the moment comes when we, the Americans, we, the American people, are able to accept the fact that I have to accept, for example, that my ancestors are both white and black, that on that continent we are trying to forge a new identity for which we need each other, and that I am not a ward of America. I am not an object of missionary charity. I am one of the people who built the country. Until that moment, there is scarcely any hope for the American dream, because the people who are denied participation in it, by their very presence, will wreck it. And if that happens, it's a very grave moment for the West.